It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedback-iest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday, and this has been another long week. I don't know if you saw my Instagram video for It's Not Therapy. I was super punchy then. We did our first round of It's Not Therapy bubbles this week. All the bubble heads, the people facilitating the bubbles did a really, really great job. Very different approaches, but they all worked. It was really, really cool. And we will be doing more in the new year. 2 ongoing bubbles have new dates. We haven't set more for that. But more to come on that in the coming weeks. I got a lot of comments picked out, so I want to get to those. And then more on housekeeping stuff as we go along. One of the things we will be doing is an opportunity for people to come and actually sit in, have a chat on the Two Women Talking recordings. We're going to try that. We're calling it Two Women Talking to You again in the new year. It'll be some sort of ticketed event, just because, we want to keep the flow going and sort of keep the quality of the audience at a certain level. So if you're interested in that stuff, stay tuned. And if you want to help these various endeavors that do not game the YouTube algorithm, focus on quality of material, not, doing shocking and OMG and trying to get a ton of clicks. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/Leanna K. Yeah, I know people are feeling the bite finance-wise, so I really appreciate any support people can give. So let's get into the one Two Women Talking that made me chuckle. The comments are really good. It was people talking and adding, and the one I enjoyed when we were talking about shows like Game of Thrones, Spartacus, Vikings, Camelot. Apparently Leslie Ann Brandt, an actress, used to refer to those shows as Rudy Nudies. So enjoyed that. So chuckle. So Wellness Wednesdays, about, and I didn't expect this to get a ton of traffic because of the title, but I try not to do clickbaity titles on Wellness Wednesday for obvious reasons. So talking about avoiding fallacious assumptions. And, one person said, sometimes I wonder if I'm going too slow whenever I say yes or okay when people are talking about something. And the other person says, you sure say okay a lot. And then internally, like, shit, I fucked up now. I don't know if I need to balance more or not. This is something that's coming up a lot lately, that people think that because someone had a reaction to something, they did something wrong. And that's not necessarily so. Somebody could be awkward. Somebody could be being an asshole. Try not to take so much on yourself in a conversation. Yes, it's good to improve, your communication style, but somebody saying, you say okay a lot, so what? And that's the way you talk, right? It's one thing if you're actually just sort of following along and that's your way of acknowledging you're paying attention. If you're tuning out and doing the yeah, which people do, that's a different story, right? Another Wellness Wednesday comment, and this may help with the first one of how do I parse this? This is about the ignorant versus stupid thing. What I've seen with people getting upset over ignorant is that the definition is usually how you're describing it, but there's an implicit, and that's because where you can fill in the blank with something that calls into question your education, almost like in a trivia game where you just simply don't know the answer. That means lose a point. It also fosters the same kind of culture where no one wants to admit they're wrong about something because in those cases, well, many times someone who's wrong just simply held a belief based on a lack of knowing or ignorance. And that, there's more to the comment, but I'll pause comment on this and move on. Yeah, I don't like educational privilege. It's something people really need to keep an eye on. Credentialism. I'm a big fan of wisdom because wisdom allows you to process information in useful ways as opposed to knowledge, just how much you have in your head. Um, and some days people will just, I mean, we've all had it, right? Um, Something we know, it's like just out of reach, you just brain fart someday. And that doesn't mean you don't know it. And you know what? It's not even that important. It just happens in conversations. And yeah, the people that keep that running point system in their heads, it's like a dominance play. And I don't like it either. Going on. I think I also noticed that liar had meaning creep, where before I swear it was like a liar is a person who willfully spreads disinformation. Whereas now a liar seems to mean a person who spreads misinformation, willingly or not. It seems to have been creeping that way in the recent years, especially around after Trump. An increasing number of people are hypervigilant about misinformation and facts and alternative facts and etc. And yeah, Trump media, who normally would not call someone a liar or use the word lie, consciously started using it with Trump because they believed he was doing it deliberately. And of course, you get the political poll reactance of, well, you're doing it, so we're going to do it to you. And of course, they don't just do it back to the New York Times. They do it to anybody who they think is a liberal. On the libs. They do that to anybody. Even though that person they're doing it to didn't set New York Times style guide, right? They had nothing to do with that conversation. And that's something that I really think, you guys know I'm big on honor. More on that in a bit with the comments when we get into Manly Monday. But yeah, it's not right to take out something that's happened in the political discourse on some person who may not know anything about that. And it's crazy how many people do that. Final bit. And as a linguist, insert eye rolling. I'm not sure being a linguist is cool. I can say that it is 100% true that different people have nuance in their definition of even common words. That's why we don't rely on single words to communicate, but entire phrases, sentences, and conversations to provide context. Natural language isn't a string of word plus word plus word equals meaning in a vacuum. So well put. So well put. And yeah, I'll just leave that there. That was so well done. Okay, Manly Monday. This is going to be the bulk of the comments because I was expecting angry typing on this one, but maybe because it was an empathy exercise or I don't know, just a good week. It didn't get bombarded by trolls this week, but yeah, the comments were really positive. So let's get in. And it was about women being awkward too. And again, this was a suggestion from a Leanna Cares client. He said, you should do a video on this. And so I did. And it's nice when everything works out together, right? It minimizes the number of decisions I have to make in a week. I feel this is an incredibly overlooked subject, and I'm glad you're bringing attention to it. We need to focus on both men's and women's issues if we're actually interested in helping people. You did a phenomenal job on your takedown of the incel slur, and it's great to see your take on this. And I appreciate that because I agree part of my issue with the way gender is taught is that it's women or it's men, and there's very little... because they're who you're speaking about and then there's who you're speaking to, right? And so much of the stuff about women is geared to women and not to men unless it's pickup artist shit, right? So thank you, commenter, for that. There were multiple comments agreeing that, drunk women being aggressive and handsy was not good and it was uncomfortable. So thanks for the backup on that. One person said her making that first move, even if it's just saying hi and striking up a friendly conversation, seems like it would be massively helpful for any introverted, shy guy who's also been socialized to assume rejection by default. I honestly wasn't aware that it's so prevalent and intense for women, a social deadlock situation, especially since because I try to, I like hosting and I go up to people and try to make them comfortable. And especially in tech spaces, I go up and just talk to somebody and it's like, hi. Okay. And I've been asking people what that's about, and they're like, well, women don't approach me, and so I think I'm being made fun of. I am trying to figure out what to do about this, as the commenter said, social deadlock of negative assumptions and fears. And I know it's a baby steps thing, but I just can't find the steps small enough to be the first one. It's nobody's fault. I totally see the reasons for this, but it's a tough one because everybody has reasons, right? But there's so much unnecessary loneliness and misery out there. Um, this may be a bit tangential to the point, but it's an observation from conversations I've had with my younger sisters, so I feel like there's some value in it. I'll call it good, nice, liked, or GNL socialization. Basically, the idea is that good people are nice, nice people are liked, and like people, therefore, must be good. It's blatantly incorrect on every level, but it feels like it ought to be true. And that's very true because the truth is, being a good person often means you can't be nice to everyone. It's the tolerance paradox. Doing good, being good means you have to say not okay to someone, which is not being nice. When someone's being bullied and you go up to somebody and go, "Hey, leave him alone." That's not being nice to the bully, right? But it's the right thing to do. It's fair, right? And then, nice people are liked and liked people therefore must be good. And that really depends on the group, right? Doing the right thing can make you really unpopular. Trust me. Especially if you're, working with high stigma situations or ahead of the curve on social issues. I very early on in marriage equality, very early on trans rights, they weren't popular when I first started either. People did not necessarily like those ideas. Things are evolving, they're going back and forth, but yeah, it's a great way of putting it. Because, yeah, and then popular people are not necessarily good people. Quite the opposite. One of the things I learned from playing Vampire the Masquerade was cowards are very popular because they'll tell you anything they want to hear. That was my lessons from playing a Toreador in Vampire the Masquerade. Next comment. I think I copped onto this when I met my best friend's girlfriend, who had met a couple times in passing before they got together, and was extremely nervous, like, I have to make sure she likes me. And then, of course, became great friends, and a year later, she told me how nervous she was meeting me and was like, I have to make sure his best friend likes me. I guess it's sort of another lesson to not put people on pedestals. Yeah. Flip side of that, someone says, now I'm wondering how I, a cisgender neurodivergent male, picked up that if someone doesn't like you, you're doing something wrong, brainworm. I did also get the brainworm of you got to get physical before a certain age. It's zero mystery where I found that one. Okay, if someone doesn't like you doing something wrong, it could be from... It's funny, we were talking about this for a bubble topic. Two possible theories for this. It could be completely wrong, but I'm just throwing it out there to start a conversation. One, we have seen certain elements of socialization merge because of, the way various structures smush young people together, right? One of the big changes to socialization was zero tolerance violence in schools policy. once those went in and boys couldn't, solve problems by beating each other up, we did see a lot more what's called relational aggression in boys, which was the typical female thing. And this idea that everybody has to like you. And it's ingrained. And if somebody doesn't like you, you're doing something wrong. That's one theory. The other theory is that there are good, interventions with neurodivergent people, and there are really shitty ones. And one of the things the bubbleheads were talking about, the idea that we want to do some stuff where people focus on what's good about them, what they get right, what their achievements are, because especially neurodivergent people spend so much time being corrected. You go to behavioral therapy to be corrected, to normalize, to get along in the world. And it can, and this is why I don't like the big five personality stuff. It can induce a form of neuroticism that every time you get a bad reaction for somebody, your assumption is you're doing something wrong, as opposed to that person's just an asshole. And sometimes that person's an asshole, but you got to deal with them. A lot of times you don't. And so those are my two theories. It could be a combination of both. I'm not sure. But yeah, that overcorrecting of neurodivergent people is, hi Scout, is a very real thing. Hi Scouty, how are you? It's rather depressing that the miscommunications are getting worse over time, particularly as people are often trying to integrate two opposing paradigms. Many younger men I know have the paradigm that you have to approach a woman and signal confidence, preferably at a site of common interest. This is held simultaneously as lots of content by women emphasizes not to approach a woman at X location or for Y reasons as follows. And there were multiple comments about this contradiction, so I just picked one. Gyms, women are just trying to work out. Parties and clubs, often with friends and not looking to engage. In public, generically creepy. At work, inappropriate and could get fired. I think this one has the most merit. Befriending a woman at hobby, creepy and ulterior motives. This set only leaves dating apps, which statistically only work out well for a small portion of men, and will hammer your self-esteem the whole time you try. Wow, have I heard that one a lot. There are nuances to both paradigms that are left unexplored, and a particular failing of the modern one from pop culture feminism is it largely has no positive examples to demonstrate. People tend to try harder and work more honestly when there's a positive approach offered rather than constant criticism. The constant negative reinforcement results in a lot of young men trying desperately not to lose rather than developing confidence in character through making progress on a concrete path. And that sort of ties into the thing I was saying before of just because someone rejects you doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It could be them, not you. I mean, I put up a thing on Instagram this week saying, you can make getting rejected a story about your worth or a story about their poor judgment. You have the power to choose, right? Some of this comes with age, but you do hit a point where I don't like everything about myself, but there are certain things I do very much like about myself. And if somebody doesn't like that, fuck off, right? One of the things I like myself is that I'm pretty direct. People know where I'm coming at them. We were talking about this on Twitch on Tuesday, because I said, I am very open about, I was playing God of War Ragnarok. I am very open that this, pointed to Kratos, is my inner voice. So, I am who I am. And I would rather, and this is what I mean, this is something I like about myself. I would rather people not worry that I am thinking something ill about them, because if they cross a line, I'll tell them. Right? I don't want people, oh, is she mad at me? Is she this? Is she that? I'd rather be, that was too far. That was not okay. Line crossed. I would rather be that. Cut that shit out. So when somebody isn't getting a line crossed, they know it's okay. Some people think that's, sorry, Scout. Some people think that's bitchy. I don't give a fuck. I prefer that, especially in creative environments. People have to be able to take swings and even, shocker, offend or say something that comes out wrong. You don't get the best creativity if people are watching every word. And you see Cthulhu's like, and I get that this isn't everybody's cup of tea, right? That's something I like, and I'm allowed to do that. And the doorbell just rang. And the dog is barking. And the same thing about talking to people. How do I put this in a way that's clear? There are ways of approaching people in those public places, right? If you're straight up hit on them for a date, yeah, not gonna work. If you just get used to talking to people in social environments, different, right? If it's something like, I don't know, hey, great hat, or something like that, that's obviously different than, I crack somebody up. That's clearly different than going up to somebody at the gym and going, I like you. Because here's the thing, you don't know them, right? You don't know them. You think they look good, maybe. You like the idea of them, but you do not know them. And it's less about, for me, because, I'm introverted and have to fake this. It's less about how you approach and what you say, and more about your mindset, your mentality going into it. Because if you go into it with the right mindset, first of all, you know what you intended, right? Second of all, you're more likely to be more... There's no word that isn't loaded here. So you're more likely to have better results, right? Because if you're just going in there to have a pleasant conversation with somebody who seems nice, you can do that. You can achieve that, right? And if you're just going in to have a conversation like, ew, well, that's on them, not you, right? As opposed to, this was Manly Monday, so I am man, you are woman, right? Wrong mindset. And it's like, but that's what I want. Yes, I understand. However, one step at a time. That's the inappropriate part, not uttering a word in a woman's direction, right? And we can, if you're interested in more on that, we can go, but I want to get to more comments. The lack of recognition that girls and women feel awkward, insecurity, or have anxiety is in part from a disconnection between media portrayals and real life experiences. For some boys and men, it's hard for them to conceive that girls and women have these feelings because boys and men grow up in a culture that places such an emphasis on a girl's or a woman's beauty that her beauty makes her immune, for example, of ever being rejected. A girl or a woman could always get a date or boyfriend if she wants without even trying because of her looks is unfortunately the perspective among some boys and men. However, this perspective is false because media constructed narratives where looks alone can give girls and women anything and everything because of their looks, while boys and men have to work to get their attention. Girls and women are just as shy as boys and men are, but movies, TV shows, and novels show the opposite, that beauty gives them power and control, so they have no reason to complain or have negative feelings about themselves because you can just get someone and never be alone. Of course, this is a myth. And there have been studies that, very attractive women actually don't get approached a lot because of intimidation. And I always noticed... as early as high school, may have been junior high, but I noticed that it wasn't the prettiest girls that got the most attention from men. It was basically the girls who knew how to flirt. And this is a tough one. Again, I'm approaching this very delicately because not only does this sort of thing, it's very challenging for neuroatypical people. Again, something we're workshopping for the It's Not Therapy Bubble stuff. But how do I put this? Post Me Too, obviously, flirting is not what it once was, right? Um, I do also think some of the light touch that I used to see a lot more often, where it was like, and some people still have the ability to do this because it's very, if you're going to pay somebody a compliment, neck up, probably best bet, you know. Um, but I mean, we all understand why sort of a cramp has been put in that whole thing. It's completely understandable. But again, like, I wish there were ways to just sort of practice socializing. Because even in the last, I'm trying to think, last 5 years, certainly the last 10, I've seen a decline in playfulness. This, and part of it I think is because of, and this, we're going to, cancel culture is not real. It is real. We've gotten, and people getting put on blast on social media for the most ridiculous things. A friend of mine went through a thing where someone quit a job, wasn't fired, quit, and put up on social media that, my friend and the company, this was my firing offense, suggesting this person got fired, not that they quit. And they put this whole thing on blast. It was a completely false take on the whole thing, left a lot of information out. And what I read is this person, I think, thought they could, huff up and down and stamp their feet and threaten to quit and then go 3 weeks and decide not to. As if that's the way quitting works. And it didn't go the way they wanted when they were like, all right, fine, we understand. Clear out your desk. Which is the more reasonable expectation when you quit, right? But something's happened and it's completely unfair. I had another situation this week where someone was trying to, this is somebody who's much more to the right of me and, uses some language I don't like. And I've made it clear to this person that I don't like some of their views and behavior, but it's a dialogue, right? But this third party started sniffing around and started dropping language towards me. Like, you seem to care about LGBTQ plus issues. So I just wanted you to be aware of this person in your mentions, screen cap from Reddit. And, I'm looking at this going, this is out of context. I'm reading this and not seeing what I'm supposed to see. But now it's like, oh, you seem to care. Oh, heaven forbid that I'm talking to somebody less enlightened and therefore my, caring about these issues is false. Fuck off. Like, no, I said on Twitter, anybody who does that to me gets the hard side of me fast. Like, somebody, I could think the person was completely in the wrong based on what they said. Obviously, I would not have said some of the things they did. But no. If you're coming and you're questioning my commitment to something because I am actually trying to advocate for that position by talking to somebody who thinks and feels differently, that's the world we live in. So I get why I left a red mark on my head. That's, I'm not wearing any makeup on my skin, right? It's the red mark. Yeah, ginger problems. Oh, look at that. That's jeez. Um, but yeah, that whole thing about women can just be inert and have guys throw themselves at them. It it no, women work for it. The women who are the most popular with men are because they flirt, and they flirt shamelessly. And often it is unfortunately because there's a reputation, especially when people are younger, that men will get certain things from them. And so it's not about respecting and cherishing that person. It's, I'm going to get sex. And that's gross. Gross is the wrong word, but that is not sex positive. We had discussions with some of the moderators this week, the bubbleheads, about sex positivity too as a possible topic. But yeah, into this soup comes socialization. And I don't know how many different ways I can say it. It's true every way I do it. But just because you get a bad reaction doesn't mean you did something wrong. Just because you reject it doesn't mean it's you. And being a good person sometimes means being unpopular and not being liked by, because if you're a good person, the bad people don't like you. If you're a strong person, the cowardly people are intimidated by you. And I don't believe the average person is bad. I do believe the average person lacks courage. And so the average person may sell out stronger people just because they're afraid of the bad people. And this is just the way of the world, which is why I am so rar. And people are just like, I'm not kawaii, I'm rar. People found that funny. But they're like, oh, you're so much nicer on YouTube. Yeah, because on YouTube I get to talk for 30 minutes without being interrupted. Whereas on Twitter, you're coming at me, you're jumping into my mentions, accusing me of this, this, and this. Of course I'm going to go, I'm wearing kind of a Wolverine shirt today, aren't I, too? Of course, it's going to be a different paradigm. Your approach was aggressive, but you're saying nice. Like, what part of, my inner voice is Kratos mixed with Billy Butcher from The Boys made you think you were going to get nice if you test me? That's about them, not me. I don't care if they think I'm nice. So maybe that helps a little bit. Just create a bit of resilience, kind of insulate from the rejection. Anyway, I'm out of time. I gotta go. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.